Hi, I'm Tricia from Club Scrap and welcome to the Wishes Page Kit Workshop. Now, a word before we get started with our layouts. I want you to remember that if I'm going too fast for you, simply go into your YouTube settings, go to playback speed and choose 0.75. That's really going to slow me down so that you can keep up more readily. And when you've gone through a few rounds of this workshop with me, I'm sure you'll be able to follow along just fine at that regular speed. Now let's get started. So I have my page kit here out of the bag. Everything's out. I've got my instructions printed. You don't necessarily need to print them. Just follow along with me. I've got my Accordion Pocket files so we can stay organized. If you don't have this, don't let that stop you from doing the workshop today. You're going to need to maintain 4 separate piles so that we can keep track of all the items we're trimming for our 8 pages we're going to make together. This just has 4 pockets that are held upright by the base of our trimmer, so it's kind of a clever little way to stay organized here and use our plentiful vertical space. If you want to make one of these or buy one already made, I'll put some links below in the description. A quick word about this acrylic dandelion. I just want to mention that you may notice the back of it, or the silver side of it, is covered with a blue film. Make sure you move the blue film to expose the silver side, or you can use the gold side, whichever one you prefer. But anyway, I'm going to set aside the ribbon and the dandelion and all of the charms and things that came. Just get those out of the way and isolate the paper and photo mats. Before we get started on the trimming, let's file our photo mats into the right pockets, or piles for that matter. Let's take 3 of the ivory photo mats. Now remember, there's a yellow here, it's like a nice buttery color, and then there are 3 ivory. So take the 3 ivory and place them in the pocket labeled 1 and 2. I like to place my stuff in my pockets horizontally whenever possible to avoid a lot of vertical pressure on the pockets. Next, let's take 3 of the yellow mats and put those in pocket 3 and 4. Take the 3 light gray, it's almost like a grayish, and put these in pocket 5 and 6. And then the 3 dark gray will go in pocket 7 and 8. How easy is that? Next up, I want to sort the paper into the order we'll either trim it or use it. So I like to work with my papers stacked upright like this. And we're going to take one of the gray prints. Now I'm just going to show you both prints so you can see the difference. This one we're calling gray, and then this one we're calling gold. All right, so take a gray print and put it face down on your trimmer, followed by one of the gold prints. So that'll be face down. And then we'll take 1 sheet of the light gray paper. This is really just a beautiful, nice cardstock here. And then 1 sheet of the dark gray. Next up, we need some Cutaparts. Those are sometimes collated so they're facing like away from you on the back of the pile. So the one I want you to find is, it says, "Don't ever stop listening to your heart's wishes." That'll be first, and then put that face down, followed by the one with all the little dandelion heads here on the right edge and a border. Put that face down. Next up, grab 2 sheets of just the plain ivory. It's so pretty. 2 of those, and then 2 yellow. Next, take the remaining gold print, that's this guy, and put him face down, and then the dark gray. And then finally the remaining gray print face down, and the last light gray. With all of that sorted, flip everything back over so that we're back to where we began with that gray print. And I like to put my paper to my left with my instructions on my right, and we'll get started with our trimming. Right out of the gates, I want you to just be mindful of the direction if you want to replicate what I did. I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter, but position this so that the top of the print is at the right. And so it's kind of sideways, and then cut at 9. So as you look for the hole number 9 here on the trimmer, make sure the paper is always just level with this ridge right here so that you have a 90-degree angle with the blade. And then make sure you're pushing on the clear bar, hopefully you have one of those on a trimmer similar to this, to prevent the paper from sliding around as we trim. And then just lift the blade back up and slide it down to 5. Another nice hole number here, 5. Stabilize always and slice. Now you'll notice I never moved any of the paper that landed to the right of the trimmer. If you follow along in that habit, then I always know where your paper is. But if you move it, sometimes it's hard to keep track. So take the piece of paper in your trimmer right now and place it in pocket 5 and 6. And when you do that, just kind of have that paper winging out to the right so that you can still see the number on the left. Don't try to shove the paper down into the pocket if you're using the file. Then the next sheet, it's basically from the middle of the print. That's going to go in pocket 1 and 2, again at that same angle. And then the last piece back into 5 and 6 with a friend. Okay, now this one, this gold print is next in my stack, and we're going to place this one into the trimmer upside down. So there you have that big blossom here on the top, and our first cut will be at 8 1/4. So 8, and then using the columns to help us, we're going to go one column to the left. Gives us 8 1/4. So push down on the clear bar. Then I want you to rotate the paper clockwise so that the big blossom is on your right, and cut at 8 1/4 again. We made a big square. So the big square here goes in pocket 7 and 8. And the small piece with the big blossom, that's going to go in 5 and 6. The long strip here, that's going to go into 7 and 8. Okay. Now we have next in our stack one piece of light gray. Our first cut on this one is going to be at 8 1/2. So I find the 8, go left 2 columns. Then you've got 8 1/2, and then 4 1/2. All right. Now rotate the 4 1/2 by 12-inch piece, so it's horizontal. Cut at 9, 6, and 3. The piece in your trimmer, just one of these rectangles that goes in pocket 1 and 2, and then you've got 3 more pieces for 5 and 6. The next piece in the pile, because you haven't moved it, right? The next piece should be a 4 by 12. Let's trim that at 6, basically in half, to make 2 pieces the same size, going into pocket 7 and 8. Then we have one more long strip. We'll cut this one at 9, 6, and 3. 2 of these rectangles go in pocket 1 and 2. And the other 2 go in pocket 3 and 4. Dark gray. We're going to trim some really narrow pieces here. The first one at 11 3/4, and then 11 1/2. Then down to 8 1/4, and then 4 1/4. Rotate the 4 1/4-inch piece. And let's cut this at 9 3/4, 7, and 3 1/2. The piece in your trimmer plus the one that just fell, just pick that one up, and they should be the same size for pocket 3 and 4. And then you've got a wider rectangle for 7 and 8, and a skinnier one for pocket 1 and 2. This next strip is a 4 by 12. We'll cut it at 6. And then the 2 rectangles that we end up with go in 7 and 8. And then we have another wider strip here. This one's 3 1/4 by 12. We'll cut this one at 9 3/4, 6 1/2, 3 1/4. Now let's gather 3 pieces that should be the same size. Pocket 1 and 2, then you have a little rectangle left over for 3 and 4, and then you've got 2 narrow strips going into pocket 5 and 6. I want to happily report there wasn't a single scrap created in the formation of these pages. Now we have the Cutaparts where we do need to trim away the outside perimeter here. So follow the instructions that say remove paper outside of corner cutting guides. It says that basically on every edge. And then you'll find that little plus sign in the corner. You might need your reading glasses, so grab your reading glasses. And usually when I make that first cut, the paper is too large for me to see the edge of the blade, both at the top right up here and then down in this bottom corner. So I usually cut this first time shy of the line, and then I come back and clean it up on my final rotation. So now I'm going to rotate and look at this edge. I can see the blade up here and I can see the blade down here, and I need to adjust it to line it up nicely. Then I rotate again align the hash marks at top and bottom. And sometimes you even have to tilt the paper just slightly to make it line up, and that's perfectly normal. And that's why I have you do this last step, because those industrial trimmers just can't get it to the, level that we need it to be for accuracy. This is the last cleanup cut. So now I do have these little tiny pieces I can get rid of. And when we trim the Cutaparts, I was thinking in terms of cutting on the nearest 1/4 inch typically, and then making sure you have the narrowest pieces on the right edge. So in this case, it should say every act of kindness is on the right. So if I look like at the gutter between the two pieces of artwork, that lands me at 10 inches. So the instructions are listed as well, but just you can eyeball this too. Then you go down to 8 and 6 and 3. So this large strip here, that goes in pocket 3 and 4. And then pick up the next strip. There's a bunch of text here and it falls every 1/2 inch. So if the text is on the right, I can trim at 11.5, 11, 10.5, 10, 9.5, 9. Then we're going to go to 6 and 3. You can gather the 3 squares that you made. They're all going to go in pocket 1 and 2. And then all these little words, sets of words, they all go in pocket 7 and 8. Drop them in there. Then we have this larger strip for pocket 3 and 4. And then the last 2 strips from the sheet end up in 5 and 6. Okay, one more sheet to deal with here. So we've got to do those edges. So again, I'll cut shy of that line. Take your time with this and then rotate. So you can pause as long as you need to get those edges cleaned up. And again, like anything, the more practice you get at this, the faster you'll be able to do it. Usually on my 3rd rotation, I can look at the 12 over here. And then same on that cleanup cut I need to make on my final. Just clean that up a little bit. All right, get rid of your scrappies. And our first cut on this one is at 10.5. Make sure your blade's going between the 2 border strips on the right here. Then 9, 8, 7, and 4. Now you've got 4 little things you can fussy cut down here. I'm just going to have you for now just trim them at, let's see, 11.25 and 10.5. That's a bonus. 8.5 and 6. Okay, this big guy and the one that just fell that says, "Let today be simple." Both of these go in 7 and 8. Then you have a journaling prompt for 1 and 2. And then you've got these guys. I'm just going to go ahead and cut them at the same time. Just eyeball. It's kind of tight. Later we'll fussy cut them, but for now we'll separate them. Now, funny story. The one that says wish fell on the floor when I was making the pages. So Karen's like, "Where did that one go? I don't see it anywhere. Am I blind?" I'm like, "No, I lost it." And then I found it later on when I was cleaning my office. So I ended up putting it on page 1 and 2. Wish, kindness, and listen. Those all go on 1 and 2. And then I put the dream with the yellow background. That one goes on 3 and 4. All right, let's trim apart this one. Make sure the yellow journaling prompt's on your right. We'll trim at 10, 8, and 6. All right, this big boy, 5 and 6. Then you have just some pretty artwork. And I'll just quick tell you that if you happen to have a slot punch, I will leave a link to that in the description. This is our slot punch. It puts a really nice little, we're just gonna call it a slot, right where those marks are. If you don't have a slot punch, don't worry about it. You could always like staple a piece of ribbon over it so that you can't even tell it was kind of a guideline for a slot shape. So this guy goes in 3 and 4. Then you have the journaling prompt for 1 and 2, and the one with the yellow background goes in 7 and 8. And then we've got some strips here. So the first dandelion strip, 1 and 2, the second one, 7 and 8, along with these other two really sweet border strips. All three of those go in 7 and 8. And that indicates we are done with all of the trimming required. So at this point, if you did print your instructions, go ahead and turn to the back page, page 4, and we're going to look at layouts 7 and 8. Okay, then you can lock your trimmer blade as well, and make sure that you, from now on, place your accordion pocket file on its back, because the trimmer is what holds it upright. So once you take your trimmer away, it's not going to stay up anymore. And then I want you to find those remaining 12 by 12 papers. So here's that stack of paper, and I want you to take the whole pile, all of them, and place that kind of to the left of the center of your workspace and slide the top sheet over to the right. And as I mentioned, we're going to look at the bottom of page 4 at layouts 7 and 8. And we're going to build our layouts from 8 up to 1, so that when you're done, you will have everything stacked up and placed beautifully, ready for you to adhere and then add your photos. Then I'll take the pocket file and empty the one labeled 7 and 8. Make sure you get everything out of there. Now I should have what I need to get this layout done. So I'm going to place this larger square up here in the right corner, and then just below it, you're going to add one of those cute little border strips horizontally, and then the dandelion strip will go vertically. And what I'm going for here is like the margin between the edges and the strips should be about the same. Then you have the other larger print with the gray background. That's going to go along the left edge, and then you're going to just neighbor this right up next to it. Now you're going to have some larger gray mats and some smaller dark gray. So make sure you grab the larger dark gray. Those are going to be placed on the left side of the page like so. And then if you have the smaller light gray, those will nest onto these two dark gray mats. So if it's not lining up, you might have your sizes backwards. Then on the right, you're going to have two smaller dark gray mats. These are going to measure 4 by 6. One will be vertical and one is going to be horizontal. You should have a medium-sized gray piece that nests perfectly with the sentiment here. And then this larger cut apart will nest with the larger gray mat there. Being mindful that if you have a lot of pictures, go ahead and cover those pieces of artwork. Then I used the journaling prompt right over here. And then we also have these pieces of text. So I have live the way you want right here, to be remembered. And on the right, it says, it's not what you gather, but what you scatter that tells what kind of life you lived. I just think that those are really sweet. And I did a couple of things with my corner rounder. You're going to notice that I rounded almost every corner in the entire set of 8 pages. So either you start it or you don't start it. If you start it, I would finish it and just kind of do everything. Even on these small little pieces, I use the R4, the radius 4 setting on the 3-in-1 corner punch. I'll put a link to that below, but it just kind of finishes it off so nicely. And I did that with all of these little pieces. And then on the left side, I added a button kind of right to the left of each line of text to sort of differentiate it a little bit. To add the button, I pierced some holes with an awl into a corkboard, and then I sewed it on with like a tapestry needle and the jute. This is the jute that's included in the kit. You can use that, or you can just glue it, whatever you want to do. If you don't mind being a little fussy, you can. And then I added some ribbon here, along with one of those rectangular, adorable wish charms. We actually found a charm that says wish on it. So right now I think would be a great time to show you the finished pages. I'll start out with 8. Oh yes, the disc, the medallion. I did add a big medallion here, and I topped it with the jute as well, just to kind of, I don't know, draw the eye to it. You can see my rounded corners here, and I just shoved the edge of it right up against the print. I glued it down too early before I rounded the corners of my square. And since you're watching, I just want to tell you that I made an error, and I cut this print a quarter of an inch smaller than I wanted to. So I taped the piece back together from the back side and I'm kind of disguising it. But I just want to tell you that I make mistakes and I tape them back together. Okay, over here I've got my rounded corners, as you can see on the journaling prompt, and then my slot was punched. I threaded it with that gorgeous taffeta edge satin and then wrapped the ends around to the back. Then on page 7 here, you can see my rounded corners, my stitched on buttons. Isn't that sweet? And those rounded corners, just And then here I did a double looped bow. So it's just like 2 pieces of ribbon that have been threaded together to form like a chain link. And then I tied on the wish charm with the jute. I love how that turned out too. So sweet. Okay, that is layout 7 and 8. Now I'm going to pick up the base of 7, which is the ivory plain, slide it on over. And yes, things are going to move around. In fact, I might even get rid of the buttons so that they don't cause problems and lumps. And then I'll pick up the yellow and slide that over to reveal 2 sheets of yellow now from my stack. Then what pocket do I need to empty? 5 and 6. Okay, so let's do that. And I think we'll start out by putting this larger strip of artwork down on the bottom edge, and the narrower one goes along the top edge, just flush with the edge. Then we're going to add what I call a paper ribbon. It's just a 1/4 inch piece of paper that looks like a ribbon, and it helps us transition from one print to another plain, you know, it just is really nice for that. But we're going to now add our title. So every act of kindness pairs up with is a piece of love we leave behind. After that, we should be able to puzzle in with a perfect fit, because I'm reverse engineering all this for you, 2 vertical mats. Now on the right, I had this really sweet piece here, rounded the corners of this, get some light gray photo mat there. Then a trio of taller vertical rectangles in the light gray here. And then we have our another little sentiment that we can add here. I added some ribbon to this as well. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. So let me show you how I finished this up. On that light gray photo mat rather, I wrapped the corners. So kind of like a corner mounting thing, but it's just ribbon. And I just think when we have a wide ribbon like this, it's not going to really interfere with your picture and it'll look beautiful. It's just a great way to add some dimension. And then I sewed on another wood button kind of in the upper right corner of the sentiment on that side of the title. And then I did the same on the other side, on the upper left side of the title, just to kind of like, you know, say, hey, we belong together with our buttons. Here I stretched ribbon across and then just tied a second piece of jute onto the wider yellow ribbon. Love how that looked. Now we're going to take the yellow, slide it over onto the other yellow, then one more piece. This is the gold print. We'll turn back in our instructions to the bottom of page 3, and we're going to look at layout 3 and 4. So that's where we are. We'll empty the pocket labeled 3 and 4. I love how easily this is coming together. I spend a lot more time on round 1 of assembly than I do on this one, let me assure you. Okay, so here we have kind of a, well, let's start out with the yellow. I'm going to do the yellow mat first. So that'll help us kind of get our frame of reference. So if you adhere the yellow first during that phase, the next piece you'll add is going to be this strip. Once again, framing it like I did on layout 8. And then a vertical one is going to just kind of create a little, hello, we belong together. And I topped it with the acrylic dandelion here. I used the gold side because there's a lot of gold on this paper, but it also looks really pretty with the silver. I'm not sure how the camera is going to capture that, but play around with it and see what color you like best, gold or silver. And then I just used our bookbinding glue to add it to the page. If I remember, I'll grab a link to our bookbinding glue and I'll put that in the description as well. It's just a great product for adhering like acrylic, metal, wood, paper to paper, anything to paper. All right, what do we have here? A vertical yellow. And then we have 2 larger mats, and I ribbon corner wrapped the upper left and the lower right. And then we have 2 smaller, and I tilted them just to kind of add some variety to the look here. I could also do it this way if you wanted more horizontal. that looks really nice too. Whatever you like. And then I've got my nested piece of art. And this is where I added the word dream. It fell out of my pocket. So you can leave it as is or fussy cut it. I fussy cut mine. Those are very sweet. Let's take a look at our finished versions. Here on page 4, you can see how I wrapped the upper left and lower right of the gray. Again, kept that vertical. I think part of the reason I did is just because I didn't want to cover the art. It was so pretty. Here I have Dream on there. This was attached with foam adhesive to give it a little dimension. And then I looped the taffeta ribbon through and taped it on the back. Oh, I added the wish charm here, topped with some of the ivory jute, and then just sort of put it with the word dream. Love that. And then on that facing page, you can see the gold acrylic dandelion here, and then I added the final button. I think that's the final button. At least it was my last button, right to that spot. Okay, we're on the finish line run here. I'm going to pick up the dark gray, slide him over, pick up the gray print. So we have a lovely pairing for our final 2 pages. I'll empty the pockets. Remember, all those little pieces are down in there. Don't drop them on the floor like I did. And let's see here. I'm going to take this lovely portion of the gray print and carry it over to the bottom, and then add the dandelion border. Above that, I can tilt. I did the tilt. 2 ivory mats. And then the third one is going to go here. You have a larger light gray mat, and then a dark gray that's a little narrower, but I'm going to add a journaling prompt to it like so. You've got 3 gray squares that are going to be distributed, and then you're going to have a dream is a wish your heart makes. That one goes there. Then you have close your eyes and make a wish, and then spread kindness. Love that. 2 light gray mats for that spot. And this guy is going to go right here with some taffeta ribbon. I can't believe how easy this came together. I love it. All right, there's your little medallion. I put kindness up here. I ended up putting the wish right here, and I put the listen here. Okay, final page. With the slot punch, I added a slot to the upper right corner of the journaling prompt and looped it with ribbon, and added a second piece of ribbon that I just kind of tied a knot into, a real gentle knot so it'd be nice and flat. And what this does is equalizes the edge. I wanted to trim this to 4 1/4 to match what was below in the dark gray, but I'm like, no, I'm not gonna create a scrap. So I just faked it with this ribbon. And then once again, added the jute to the top of the medallion here, and the kindness was right there. On our final page, my friends, we have some of the jute triple wrapped around this. It's added with foam adhesive, just tied on a little extra bow. Here I did the slot once again, looped it with the taffeta, and then added a second piece. I actually used a glue dot to just add it there. It's kind of like a fake out, right? And then there's my little listen. Love how that turned out. So yes, that concludes all of the stuff to make these 8 pages. Isn't that amazing? I've been developing this method since 2011, so it's been a couple years. But I absolutely love how this is working. And if you've never tried to create pages this way and you're hesitant about sticking everything down, I just want to challenge you to do it one time. Just get out your adhesive, like when you're ready to make these pages, and stick everything down, and then bring your pictures to the finished pages. You might have to do a little bit of adapting. You might have to do some interesting cropping. I mean, just trust me, just give it a try, see how it works. I guarantee you're gonna love it. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people love it. In fact, someone on our Club Scrap private chat group, we have a group on Facebook called Club Scrap Chat, or CS Chat, and one of our members posted what she's planning to bring to a crop, which is all of her stuff prepped to this point. She prepped projects, I think card kits and definitely some page kits. And she said her friends just are blown away when they see what she accomplishes at a crop. And it helps you in another way as well. You don't have to bring everything you own to the crop in 5 trips from the car. You can just bring a package of all of your prepped materials and then spend your time just assembling according to the picture, and you don't have to think so hard. So I hope you enjoyed these pages as always. If you get a chance to leave a comment, I always love to hear from you, or just even a thumbs up. It really helps our channel. It tells YouTube that people are interested in what this company is doing. It's very exciting. So just help us grow by doing those 2 simple things, and also make sure you're subscribed to our channel so that you don't miss any other important announcements or live special releases or things like that. So again, I'm Tricia Morris from Club Scrap. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I'll see you soon.